Unbelievable. Get a fucking computer.
I got it.
We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
What's going on, Sports Box fans, and welcome to an emergency episode of the Green Room Philadelphia Eagles Talk on the Sports Box. I am your host tonight, Brian Hess, joined by, from highly opinionated, Mr. Brian Attard, from Unsportsmanlike Conduct, Mr. Mike Velarde, and joining us from Teeing Off, Mr. Dave Cartwright. What's up, Dave? A couple new guys with us. Check them out on Cage My IQ and Game Winning Drive. Daniel Bakley, Alice Krogan. Welcome, guys.
What's up?
First things first is how long are we going to be suspended now that we used the Eagles fight song to start the show?
I just wanted. I have a pure permission from the artist behind that song. I got a copyright.
That's right. That's right. Listen, we're not getting kicked off. We're not getting booted again.
No.
We're not getting banned. Never again.
Evan Michael Brown, if you're out there watching, we appreciate it, brother. We'll be using that moving forward.
Awesome. So, Carson Wentz finally, after a couple months of speculation here, finally gets traded today to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick in this April's draft and a conditional second-round pick in 2022. If Wentz plays 75% of the snaps or 70% with a playoff berth from the Colts, that turns into a first. $33.8 million dead cap, the largest in NFL history. Guys, let's start with you, Brian. What do you think about the trade?
So start with the Cowboys fan.
I'm going left to right, Michael. I mean, Jesus.
Unbelievable.
I think it was mostly anticlimactic. I mean, we've kind of known for a good period of time here that this situation had gotten tenuous, that there didn't appear to be, it was like the point of no return. And I think the question comes, well, then why did you fire Doug? Like, if this was the direction things were going to end up anyway, then I don't necessarily know that firing the head coach was the right move. If the head coach was, a Wentz guy, I don't know. It's just all weird now. Like, there's so many puzzle pieces that just don't fit. And it's just extremely awkward, but we knew this was going to happen for a couple weeks now, I think.
What do you think, Dan?
There's a lot that goes into this. I think this year it's a loss for the Eagles and it's a win for the Colts. But I think after this year, I think it kind of flips where I think it's a win for the Eagles because they're minus $47 million over the cap this year, but next year they'll be under the cap by $72 million. So they save all that cap. They're not paying a franchise quarterback the money. They're only going to be paying $1 million to Hurts next year, whereas Wentz will be getting paid $34 million by the Colts. The Colts will go from $120 million in the cap to $69 next year, putting on Wentz, and then they have Darius Leonard, Glowinski, Quentin Nelson, and Braden Smith, 3 guys on the offensive line that will be free agents that they're going to have to sign, plus Hines. So they're going to have quite a bit of guys to sign on free agency, where the Eagles are only going to have Jeffries, Deshaun Jackson, Malik Jackson, and there's another, and Brandon Graham. And I think all of them will probably be gone. So save even more if they cut them this year. So this year's a wash for the Eagles, other than trying to get the right draft picks and getting these young guys time plus Hurts and seeing if he's the guy or not. But next year, I'll if he is the guy, I'll feel a lot better knowing that he's only going to account for $1 million of the cap, plus we'll have $72 million under the cap.
All right, Mike, you're impatient.
For the fans out there, we started the show late because our host was late. So anyway,
that's life.
Anyway, so I mean, Eagles fans, I've been reading a lot on Twitter and on Facebook and everywhere about, oh, well, they didn't get anything for him. Well, what did you expect? Did you really expect they were going to get 2 number ones for him? I mean, come on, that's not going to happen. So I think the kicker in this deal is that 2 could become a 1. Okay, and that's what made the Eagles love the deal more, and they had to get rid of him anyway. And he's played 84% of the snaps in 5 years. You might say, oh, well, he's been hurt a lot. But that number, that 70% number, you have to think the Colts are making the playoffs next year. Okay? So with those 70% with a playoff berth, I'm not very good at betting, but put a lock on that maybe. I mean, you have to think, and even if they don't make the playoffs, he's probably going to play 75%. So I think that the Eagles said to themselves, listen, we're going to eat the $33.8 million anyway. We have to get what we can get for him. There may be some, and people will keep saying, oh, they're going to take a quarterback at number 6. I don't agree with that. But if they move out of 6 and go to 9 or 10 and pick up another pick down the road, I think you could take Kyle Pitts or somebody in that spot too. And another tight end. He's more than a tight end. Okay, he's a wide receiver / tight end, kind of like what Chase Claypool's doing in Pittsburgh, I think. And it gives Hurts a weapon.
Did you just say it was a lock?
No, I said both things. I said both. I said 2 different scenarios. That's why.
Alex?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a foregone conclusion that the Colts are going to make the playoffs this coming year. I don't think that was – and this is the best offer that they have. From what I understand, the only other offer that they got was 2 third-round picks. So even with just getting a second, let's say somehow the Colts don't make the playoffs, or he gets hurt, he doesn't play 70% of the snaps, so they only get a second. They got the best deal they possibly could. They got out from under this albatross of a contract that's going to start this year. Yes, they're taking a dead cap hit, but we knew they were going to take a dead cap hit because Wentz was not going to start for them this year, so they were going to have a cap hit no matter what. He was just going to be sitting on the bench. You're going to be paying $33 million to a guy sitting on the bench. I mean, at least they got some type of value. Now, you still have Howie as your GM, who's going to screw up the draft picks no matter what. So I'm concerned. If I'm you guys, I take the left tackle. I want to say it's out of Ohio State, but I'm not sure.
Oregon.
I think Oregon. There you go. He's if I'm you guys, I take the left tackle because if you don't protect the blind side, you guys are worth. I mean, it's proven, right?
They tried to draft Andre Dillard to do that, and he stinks.
But yeah, he sucks, right? But at least with Dillard, you can move him to right guard or right tackle.
I don't think Mailata has been that bad, to be honest with you. I think he's been very good, actually, for what he came from.
I mean, if you look at Pro Football Focus, he's bottom 3rd of the league as a left tackle. So, I mean, I don't want that guy.
Baldy loves him.
I don't want that guy protecting my blind side if I'm your franchise quarterback. I'm telling you that right now. Trade back or draft a tackle. I think that's your best option. It gives them a little bit more capital with another 3rd-round pick. Maybe they can package up, move into the 2nd round if there's a guy that comes available, like a secondary guy. You guys could really use some help there. I think this is the best deal you were going to get. And the Eagles lost no matter what in this deal because I think Carson Wentz has a lot of tread left on the tire. I just think the organization has been run poorly by Howie, and now you're in a spot where you don't have a lot of talent around him. and the talent you do have is disgruntled and doesn't want to be there anyways. So it was a lose-lose situation, but I think this is the best you were going to get out of him. And you traded him to the right person because they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, you could probably put me or Brian back there as quarterback, and we could make the playoffs with this team. Just hand the ball off 35 times a game, and you're going to probably win 10 games, right?
Which Brian?
Because
if it's a card, they ain't making
Hey,
playoffs.
listen, you don't know what I can do behind the right line.
Listen, I like it from both teams. Obviously, the Colts, I think, came out way, way ahead on this deal. The fact that they don't have to give up a first round until next year, and if they do make the playoffs, which I think they will, I think Carson rejuvenates his career. They won, right? He was worth a first-round pick if you got your franchise guy. So I think this was the best of both worlds for both teams. There was no way the Eagles don't lose no matter what by trading him.
All right. Dave, Jeet?
Yeah, Jeet, what's going on, fellas? Yeah, I mean, what's up? So 3 years after winning the Super Bowl, how does the Eagles organization put themselves in this situation? In 2020, you go into the season, top 5, top 10 Super Bowl favorites to, your franchise quarterback. That's, his 4th year, coming off healthy, coming off surgery, blah, blah, blah. How do the Eagles get in the situation? Fast forward to a season later, they're going to be way over the salary cap. They have their franchise quarterback who basically has them by the balls, and signed the extensive contract, and now their backs be against the wall. Basically, all they have to do is trade him for a second round, potentially a third round, potentially a first round pick, and now you're looking at it and saying, okay, where's this team going to be 5 years from now? Now, last year going into the 5 years from now, you said they might be in 2 Super Bowls. They might be, the winningest team of the next 5 years. Now you look at it and you say, can they win 2 or 3 games next year? So I just think, is it Howie Roseman? Is it Doug Peterson? Is it Jeff Lurie? Is it all the above? Where they went from, I thought, such a great situation, such a great future, to the situation they're in now. So I don't know that answer, and I've never seen a team, especially in the salary cap area in the NFL, take such a downfall in a matter of basically 10 months, we'll say.
Dude, I said it when it happened. It's like we sold our sports soul for a Super Bowl, and now we have to deal with the Eagles playing like crap and making horrible moves. Listen, I said at the end of the year, Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, Howie Roseman, all 3 had to go. Well, they got rid of 2. The biggest one's still left out there. So I do think it was the right move to trade Carson Wentz. I want to hear from you guys. Alex, start us off with that.
Yeah, I don't see it's similar to the Deshaun Watson thing in Houston, right? They're playing tough, and they're saying they're not going to trade him. But how do you keep a guy that is basically everything to your franchise, right? Because that's your quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, we've seen you're not going to succeed in this league. So if your quarterback is miserable and doesn't want to be there, you have to trade him. You got to get rid of him. There's just no if, and, or buts about it. And so you were never going to get the value that Wentz was. If he goes back to the way he was the playoff run year when they won the Super Bowl before he got hurt, if he goes back to that guy, you're not going to get the value he's worth anyways. It's the same thing with Deshaun Watson. Houston, no matter what they get, I don't care how sweet the deal is, you're not going to get a top 3 quarterback in NFL, in my opinion, worth back in return for him, unless you get 4 superstars and 4 first-round picks. I just don't see how it works, right? So, yeah, it was the right move. You didn't have a choice, essentially, I feel like. Hurts playing hurt his ego too much. It wasn't going to work no matter what if you didn't trade him.
His ego was hurt when they made that selection in the draft.
100%. The same thing.
That's exactly what happened. He went downhill from there, and there was no coming back from it.
Yep. Brian T.
It was the only move. What could they do? Like they created this situation. No, I honestly will tell you, from the moment that they drafted him, and it's crazy to say because they won a Super Bowl after they drafted him, but at every single juncture, every fork in the road, they went the wrong direction. they've made horrible draft pick after horrible draft pick. They give the guy the extension. 12 months later, they draft what is universally believed to be potentially a replacement, and now he's gone before the contract even starts. This could not have gone any more poorly, but this is the situation they put themselves in. We talk about when you bench a starting quarterback, and it's always like it feels like this changing of the guard, whether you mean it that way or not. That's how it's perceived, and that's how it ends up happening. And that's what ended up happening, even though everybody said, no, it's just they're going to sit him down until the end of the year. And, again, and, I know we have a lot more topics to go through, so I don't want to jump ahead of anything, but the right move, no, the only move was this is the only way that they could have gone.
Mike?
Well, I'm reading Eileen's comment, and I want to just go absolutely apeshit right now, but I'll try and keep it to myself. Because it has nothing to do with a Wentz wagon. It has nothing to do with Eagles fans who loved Wentz. Yeah, we did love Wentz. But you mean to tell me that when a guy gets drafted, regardless if it was the right pick or not, okay, because most of us know it was not the right pick, okay? So when a guy gets drafted, you mean to tell me you can't stick your tail between your legs? Aaron Rodgers did it out of his MVP this year when they drafted Jordan Love, okay? It might not be the same type of, because Aaron Rodgers is 38 years old or wherever he is, but put your tail between your legs, be the leader of the team, and come out and show everybody you're the leader. Not win, 4 games? Okay? He didn't even last that long. How many games did he win, actually? How many games did
Wentz win? 3.
Yeah, 3. Okay. So I think everything did go downhill. And you know what? It actually didn't start when Hurts was drafted. It actually started when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Okay? So, whatever. I don't have time for this shit tonight. Whatever.
The anger.
No, because it always turns into, what happened? Wentz wagon. Jared Goff just signed the same type of contract, and he got traded as well. Okay? Quarterbacks fall out of favor. That you don't produce, especially in Philadelphia, we're gonna turn on you. It's the way it is.
Especially in here, especially in this city. Without a doubt. Dave, we lost you there for a minute. You're back. You want to answer this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think and you guys all said this, and it wasn't the right move. It was the only move. And I think you're seeing a change in the NFL now with quarterbacks. It wasn't a trading league. The NBA was always a trading league. NFL was always sort of a drafting league. I think it started, especially with quarterbacks. You'd get your franchise quarterback, and he was with you for 10 years. Or he was, you certainly would, you wouldn't trade quarterbacks. And you've seen 2 blockbuster deals over the last 3 weeks in the NFL. And I was listening to Sports Talk today, and it kind of started with Jimmy Johnson and the Herschel Walker trade in, late 90s of the Dallas Cowboys. That's now, I think quarterbacks are traded, and sorry, I was cut out there for a little bit, but quarterbacks are traded. And more importantly, I think it was the right move, but now you'll see that, there's no such thing as a franchise quarterback outside of the top 2 or 3 guys in the league here. So,
Danny?
Yeah, I think it was the right move to trade him. There's a lot that went into this. We won the Super Bowl with our backup, Nick Foles. I think that was the first thing that kind of killed him, was we won it without him. Then the next year he gets hurt, and then we go to the playoffs without him again. And then the next year, it took him having a great season for us to make the playoffs, and then it gets hurt 5 plays in. So he's never played in the playoffs, and then we're already paying him now $32 million, which is kind of
the last game in the playoffs, pretty much.
Yeah, which is a discount for what we probably could have had to pay him had he not got hurt. We probably would have had to pay him more than that. So we're kind of lucky he got hurt, so we signed him to a discount at the time. So then it comes to the point now where you got all these teams that are in front of us, and the likelihood that we were going to win or make the Super Bowl again was unlikely. So they made the decision after the bad move to draft Hurts was to go with the young guy, which I think they handled that poorly with how they kept on benching him and then put Hurts in. He did okay, but then they benched him in the last game. They kind of lost on purpose, basically, to keep that pick. Then he didn't stay. Yeah, then he didn't say anything in the offseason. He probably could have salvaged it if he would have said something in the offseason and just was like, yeah, we could have handled this better, yada, yada. But they didn't.
Don't worry, he was already on. John Clark already has him on Twitter FaceTiming his teammates now and, being all happy and go lucky now, of course.
Of course.
Tear his other ACL.
Yeah. So
no, we need to play 75%.
Nah, I don't even care at that point.
Yeah, so we had to trade him, and we trade him to a situation that he's going to like, and then in return, our salary cap sucks this year, but our salary cap is great next year. Like I said before, we're under 72 million. So I think the big thing here is we have to hope that Jalen Hurts does good this year, to where we have some hope that he could be the.
Dan, hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not. I gotta get that video. Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, you do need that. You do need that.
I appreciate that because I was thinking that the whole time. Just like hope. If you got to hope in what you think is your franchise quarterback, that means you need to draft the next guy. Because if you have hope, you're done. You're dead in the water.
Well, you got to hope with any quarterback, no matter what. You draft them 1, 2, you hope they're good because it's not a guarantee that they're going to be good. We've seen number 1 overall picks get picked and then they suck. So you have to have some hope that he's going to play to what you expect him to play. And then one of the things that you can do is draft weapons for him. And I think the number 6 pick is going to be very important. And like they can't draft Justin Fields there. I think that would be the total mistake because I compare him to Jalen Hurts. Why are you going to draft another guy that is the same way when Justin Fields is? To me, he's a bad quarterback. He's not good.
Oh my Lord, Justin Fields' measurables dwarf Hurts in every single category.
I don't think
every single category, including wins. You got to stop with that comparison, man.
What wins?
They're completely different quarterbacks. Completely.
He was put in the perfect scenario at Ohio State, and when it mattered, he choked.
Except that he beat out Burrow, who was in the system for 2 years and then went to Louisiana and won a national championship. He was more talented than the guy that everybody thinks is the savior of Cincinnati. And now you're comparing him to Hurts, who was a afterthought as a draft
how'd that work out for a
bad organization.
How'd that work out?
There's no comparison.
Listen, regardless of how you look at it, Jalen Hurts was a winner in college. They just took somebody else over him
at Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he sucked. He lost 2 games in his career.
Every year on offense. I mean,
and then he did good at Oklahoma with that very bad defense, where Ohio State had one of the best defenses.
Yeah, but I'm not a college football guy. Yeah. I'm not going to delve too deep into this. I looked at Hurts' numbers when he was at Oklahoma. The dude ran a lot. Like, that's not NFL football, and no one's going to convince me that it is. The league is never going to go to a primary quarterback. Lamar Jackson will never win anything.
He stinks.
He needs to throw the ball.
He can't throw the ball, dude. He can't throw the ball.
You can run.
He'll be out of the league in 3 to 5 years. You will not be the quarterback in a Ravens in 3 years.
Why Vic never won, and Vic could do everything.
Do you think Watson will win?
Can you tell me what number 1 Lamar Jackson has had in his career? Can you tell me?
Can you tell me who Wentz has had?
I mean, Alshon Jeffrey's better than any wide receiver that fucking
he ain't a number 1 receiver on any team.
But he's better than any wide receiver Lamar Jackson's had. The only thing Lamar Jackson's had is a tight end and a running game. They designed a scheme because they didn't have any wide receivers that were true matchup nightmares. So I live in Maryland, right? So I get tired of listening to these clowns bash on Lamar Jackson. The guy's an MVP when he didn't have a passing game. And he won the MVP. The guy has led his team to the playoffs every year.
But he's the MVP because there's nothing else there. Of course he's the most valuable player. He's the only player they have.
But that's what I'm saying. There's nothing else there. Give him a true – don't tell me Hollywood Brown, who had 17 drops this year, led the league in drops. Don't tell me that's your number 1 wide receiver. Nope. Everybody bashed on Josh Allen, and I crucified people. Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs. The guy's an MVP candidate now. The guy broke all his records, career highs and everything with 1 true number 1. Give Lamar Jackson a number 1 like Kenny Galladay or anybody that's an actual true number 1. And then if he fails, then I'll believe your criticism. But don't, because I watched the guy play in Louisville, and I watched him shred defenses with his arm. So don't tell me that the guy can't throw the ball. The guy can throw the ball. He's got a strong arm, and he can make reads. He just doesn't have a good offensive coordinator for what he needs, and he doesn't have a good wide receiver. That's the truth.
Well, this is a question for the group. Who, if you had to select a quarterback tomorrow, would you take Carson Wentz or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson all day, twice on Sunday.
Lamar Jackson.
Neither.
I don't think that's an option. You got to pick one.
I was just saying,
you got to
it's
pick
one
one.
or the other.
I mean, I would draft one at that point.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to our next topic. After the trade went down, a lot of the negative feedback that I saw on social media, the people that hated the trade were like, yeah, Chris Wilhelm here. When Eagles fans see the Sports Fox post about what they got for Russell, there you go. Perfect prime example of what I saw a lot of after the trade went down. They get the 3 back this year, the conditional 2 next year that could turn into a 1. And listen, in my opinion, I think this was probably the most that they could have got for a guy that wanted out and for a guy who was basically saying, listen, trade me to Indy or I'm not going to restructure my contract, supposedly.
Did he restructure it?
I mean, I think we don't know. Is he going to? That's where he wants to play. I mean, we haven't heard anything yet. I mean, it's still early, so we'll see. But for me, I don't think you could, with that contract, I don't think you really could have gotten more than what you got. So what do you guys think? Mike, what do you think? Did they get enough?
Yeah. I like I said, I think that the sweetener was that pick can turn into a 1 because they weren't going to get a 1 for him pretty much. And, listen, we know he wanted to go there. We knew from the start that was the only team that could probably rebuild his career with Frank Reich there. And everybody, he had his best, 20 game. I think he was 18 and something with Reich here. So, listen, go to a system you're comfortable in. You know the guy. I mean, you got Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. You got Quentin Nell. You got a bunch of studs on offense there. He's only going to thrive, if anything. I don't think he does what he did this year. I'd be very surprised. I think that they got what they could have gotten for him. Now everybody's saying, "Oh, they could have put Ertz in the deal." Nobody wants Ertz. Okay, nobody wants him. Okay, I think he's toast too. I think they can only get maybe a 6th or a 7th round pick for him. Like Brian said last time, they probably should have traded him 3 years ago. It goes back
last
to the
year.
same thing. It goes
last
back
off
to the
season.
Yeah, well,
Can't trade him. Can't trade him.
They tried to.
Offseason, you probably could have got a 2nd or a 3rd out of him. I feel like
they tried to trade him, and
yeah.
No. They didn't try to trade him until they were sucking in the middle of the year, and he was awful. And right before he got hurt, they tried to trade him, and then he got hurt, and then they couldn't trade him.
Right.
Well, that's their fault then.
Right. Oh yeah, they dropped the ball big time. Dan.
Well, considering that he had a bad year, yeah, they definitely got enough back in return because we could have got nothing, and then we could have been stuck with them. Would have had to pay him the $10 million roster bonus in a couple weeks, plus pay him what they're going to pay him right now, and then going into next year, we would have got nothing because we would have just cut him. So, yeah, they got enough in return, and the fact that it's basically a foregone conclusion unless something tragic happens, the Colts are going to make the playoffs. That second gets turned into their first. So at least we get a first. We get the 3rd this year, and then we get salary cap relief next year. So, yeah.
Mr. Retard?
Yes and no. No, because all we've been hearing is we're going to get the Matt Stafford deal, and we're going to get all these first-round picks, and this, that.
Well, that's
delusional fans. That's delusional.
That was
fans.
never going to happen. The analogy that I gave, I'm an investment guy. You don't pay full price for distressed debt, and that's exactly what this was. It was a bad contract for a player that has underperformed it. They had a very, very bad year last year. You're not exactly selling high. You're effectively selling low on the player, so you're not going to necessarily get, the high price that you would normally get. It is enough because this is a situation they put themselves in. They put themselves in a spot where their franchise quarterback that they put all this into wanted to only go to one team. He found a way to control his destination, got to go where he wanted. The team could have gave him absolutely nothing, and they gave him a 3rd and a conditional 2. So there was no realistic situation in which he was coming back in the fall. So this had to find a resolution. So again, You backed yourself into a corner. The Colts played, listen, and I think was Wilhelm said it best. Howie thinks he's the smartest guy in a room all the time. I mean, I don't think he's the smartest guy in any room, including when he's in there by himself with. And the Colts played it perfectly. They gave up next to nothing for potentially the solution to all of their longstanding problems since Luck left. And if Reich thinks he can fix them, God bless him. I hope that he does. I think it's a great spot for him. For the Eagles, you have to look at this as a clean break, and that's the benefit. Is it's done, it's over with. We are moving on. You're into whatever build you're going to be in. So realistically, yeah, in this situation, they got what they got. Versus fan expectation, no. I was told we were going to see Nick Foles. I was told we were going to see Tariq Cohen and a first round pick, and Brooklyn Bridge and everything else, and none of that actually showed up. So,
right, Dave.
Well, I think that's exactly right. Did they get enough? I think they got as much as they could. Along those lines, I think the roster bonus, correct me if I'm wrong, was due in about 2 weeks. So if he was on the roster prior to, March 1st or March 15th, they were taking a $10,000 hit. So they were against the wall time-wise, contract-wise. Like I said, obviously, Carson Wentz had all the chips in this deal, or other teams had all the chips in this deal. So Eagles didn't have much negotiating power here. So. The fact that they got a third and potentially a late first round pick or, conditional second, I think is about what the most they were going to get. As Brian alluded to, there were probably two teams, the Bears and the Colts, that were actually in the running for Carson Wentz in this contract. So,
well, to that point, Dave, Jay Glazer actually reported that the Bears actually never made an offer.
Okay. So there you go. So it's when you're negotiating with one team and, you got the $128 million contract. Much like the Jared Goff, and Brian alluded to this in the Jared Goff, it's you're getting rid of the contract. It's really you're trading the contract and nothing else, not necessarily the player. So I think they got probably more than that. Not that the more than they should have, but the most they're going to get.
Alex?
Yeah, honestly, I think they did great because they didn't send any first-round picks back with him. I mean, if you look at it, honestly, right, the Rams got fleeced, right? At the end of the day, they gave up 2 first-round picks to get rid of Jared Goff. Now, is Jared Goff a top 15 quarterback? Probably not, especially not with the Lions, right? But he's not a bum at the end of the day. He can play in the NFL. We've seen that. He's had success, right? He was in a Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? So he's had some success. And the fact that Carson Wentz, I think, has a much larger upside. Now, there's some question mark. Can he stay healthy? Has he been permanently damaged in the fact like how Tim Couch was when the Browns cut him with so many concussions and so many, seeing ghosts and stuff like that? We won't find out, right? But if we get 95% of Carson Wentz that we saw on the playoff run, as I alluded to before, I think they got a good deal. They're going to get a first-round pick for him. I would say that's a lock. 100%. You got a first-round pick and a third-round pick. So you got as much as you're going to get out of him with the fact of all this, all the outlying factors that, go into this. His contract is an albatross. He had a very down year. He has regressed. You can look and look at the film, and they broke it down. It's ad nauseum, right? He regressed quite a bit this year. So is that a product of the system and the players around him, or is it him, right? You're going to find that out because there's probably not a better situation for a quarterback right now. That offensive line is top 5. That defense is top 5. He has top 5 weapons when the wide receivers, once they sign Pascal and T.Y. Hilton back, plus a 2-headed monster and running back. Well, really a 3-headed monster and running back. What more could you want as a quarterback? So if you're a franchise quarterback, he's going to make the playoffs. I can't imagine them not. So you're going to get a first and a third. I think that's a great haul for him for what he is right now.
But Alex, to your point, like I've been a Wentz defender because for the exact thing that you've just said, all the things that you just said he has in Indy, he had none of that in Philadelphia, and they were still moderately successful. And then I get bashed because I think Dak Prescott's not very good because Dak has all of those things in Dallas and can't do anything. The argument for me has always been, and they were always linked to each other, it was the same draft, was Dak versus Wentz, who's better, which obviously it needed to be Wentz, or also was a huge thing for Dak being drafted many rounds later, is that Dak had every advantage in the world minus coaching. I would give you that. But you have the elite offensive line, you have the running back, you have the guys catching the ball. So why aren't you winning? Then it's probably you. It's not them. For Wentz in Philadelphia, and why I've always been a defender of his, is I look around and I see a garbage dumpster fire of a roster, and they're still making the playoffs and winning 10 games. And it's like, okay, so you're doing significantly more with, a bunch of rocks strapped to your back. Meanwhile, this guy's getting all the adulation, and he's got like a booster behind him. Right. So that's always been my argument. And
I'm going to make a comparison here. Nobody jump off the handle. Let me finish before I do it, right? But I put Wentz in the Brady category and Dak in the Peyton Manning category, meaning that Dak does a lot with a lot, right? And Wentz does a lot with a little, right? Peyton Manning, for whatever you want to say you are, is the greatest choke artist in the history of the NFL, okay? You cannot have that much talent and only win one Super Bowl and be in the playoffs every damn year, and miraculously every game you lost in the playoffs, you had 2 interceptions, right? That's what I compare Dak to. He has a lot of weapons. He has a great offensive line. Well, he used to. And he does a lot, and everybody sees these gaudy numbers. But what has it led to? No wins, right? Now, Wentz hasn't won in the playoffs because he's been hurt. But you won with Nick Foles, who we can admit is an inferior quarterback to Carson Wentz, right? I mean, so you got to look at it like that. I don't think Carson Wentz is done. I think he's got plenty in the tank, and I think he's a better quarterback than Dak. I just don't think it was the right situation for you guys. Unfortunately, everything that's gone on for the Eagles fans. I feel bad for you guys because I think he is a franchise quarterback. Right, but you're a Cowboys fan, so you have built-in hate, right? I have no
Cowboys fan because I hate them. So.
I have no reason to hate the Eagles, right? I'm a Browns fan, right? I'm neutral.
I love my family.
Right? I don't have a reason to hate you guys because I'm neutral, right? And I liked Carson Wentz. I thought that was a great pick for you guys, but it didn't work out, and it sucks because I think he's going to be successful.
So an interesting concept here. Do you think that Jalen Hurts has anything to do with his Carson Wentz's drop-off, his dramatic drop-off from 2019 to the 2020 season? Because it seems like, even though Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie said after they drafted Jalen Hurts, and we hated it, we were live in the draft show, we hated every minute of it after Jalen Hurts got drafted, right? They even came out and told Carson, like, hey, you're still our guy. Howie said in the media afterwards, it was a difficult conversation. What kind of effect did the drafting of Jalen Hurts have on Carson Wentz? I mean, you're obviously talking about a as we've come to find out this past year, a mentally fragile guy. I'll never question his physical toughness at all, but like mentally, whoa, like that really surprised me. So, are they making this trade if they didn't draft Jalen Hurts in the 2020 draft? Dave started up.
Well, I think that's a very good question, and I'm going to say, my shorter answer is: should it have affected Carson Wentz? No. Did it affect Carson Wentz? Yes. So, was this, did this trade happen as a result of them drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round? Obviously, it probably has something to do with it. Fast forwarding 13 months later. So what I would say was, I think if you have a mentally, I don't know if you call Carson Wentz a mentally weak quarterback, but somebody that was not as strong as he should have been mentally, this draft pick absolutely did affect him and kind of led to where we are now. Now, should it have a professional athlete, franchise quarterback? No. Would this happen to, would this happen to any of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league? Absolutely not. Aaron Rodgers, here's an example. They were, they draft his replacement in the first round, late first round, and he goes out and wins the MVP. So there you go. There's sort of, that's my answer for you. So there you go.
Alex, you got your head in your hands there. What do you think?
Listen, I know it's an easy comparison, right? Because both heir apparents were supposedly drafted, right? But name one guy that is better on the Eagles than a Green Bay Packer. You can't. I'll wait all day. Okay, you don't have a true number one there. You don't have a top 10 offensive line. You don't have a top 10 defense. So that comparison
If the
doesn't
offensive
work.
line is healthy, they do have a top 10 offensive line.
I would tend to
If they're healthy.
I would
That's a
tend to
question
disagree.
mark.
When was the last time they
This
were
is a
healthy?
big question mark
that.
the last 2 years, 3
I
years.
just said that. If they have Lane Johnson, if they have Kelsey, if they have Brooks, they are a top 10 offensive line. If they do, but they never have them all together, so it doesn't
Never.
matter.
So
Right.
there you go.
So, but that's my point, right? It's like comparing apples to oranges, right? Carson Wentz is not an Aaron Rodgers league, period, right? They're not. There's no
right.
comparison. But I'm just saying, like, everybody makes that comparison, right? Carson Wentz is weak. Well, I don't blame the Jalen Hurts draft pick. I blame the Rieger draft pick. I blame the offensive tackle draft pick that we talk about. I blame the accumulation of draft picks to what led to what happened with Carson Wentz. You cannot keep putting inferior guys around him in a league where it's the best of the best and then expect for him to keep producing. I understand he drug a YMCA wide receiver core the year before to the playoffs. I get that. But you can't keep expecting him to make, to grow beanstalks out of magic beans. It just doesn't work, right? So I think we're at this point, no matter whether Hurts gets drafted or not. Unfortunately, unless you would have drafted a tackle, knowing that a different tackle, knowing that your one from the year before wasn't going to work out, and you went with Justin Jefferson instead of Rieger. There's a myriad of things you guys could have done differently, but I don't necessarily believe that the Hurts directly led to this. I felt like it was coming. The writing was on the wall from the very beginning. And it just, you were going to be a bad team this year. There just wasn't enough left in the cupboard because it had been, raided, unfortunately, by injuries, whatever, right? Father time, everything. It just eventually, it had to happen.
Well,
so I'm going to
you're absolutely right.
counteract this point here. Okay, so let's say they don't take Hurts. They don't take Hurts in that draft, and they don't take Rager. They trade the pick and get CeeDee Lamb. Are they that much better?
No.
I assume you would
No, they're not.
probably
They're
have.
probably not.
You might not be that much better, but you would be better.
CeeDee Lamb's that number one wide receiver you're talking about.
Yeah, but listen. But what I'm saying is does that make Wentz not do what he did? He was throwing interceptions to people that weren't even around his receivers. It looked like he was blind out there, throwing the ball over the place. He anytime he got pressured, he fumbled. It was the worst thing to watch ever.
I think he threw 10 interceptions without a person within a yard and a half of them.
He had the most turnovers in the league.
I looked at the stats because I was killing you guys before, and then I really dug into it, right? Because in the beginning, I was like, this is all the Eagles. It's not Carson Wentz. I've seen him play at his peak, but he was not at his peak or anywhere close this year, right? Like I said, he regressed 100%, right? He led the league in interceptions without a guy within a yard and a half of him. 10 of them, right? I mean, that's embarrassing. You're a professional quarterback. You're about to make 33 or whatever it is $1 million this year. You have to be better, right? He wasn't doing the homework. He cashed out a long time ago. Maybe Hurts. Maybe laughing in the background. Sorry. My son is like laughing his butt off. Sorry. I know you guys don't want to listen to that. But
it's fine.
Yeah, listen, I think it was
if accumulation.
You hang on
long enough, Mike's son makes a guest appearance. So.
I think it was accumulation, like I said, of bad draft picks. Did the Hurts thing affect him? Possibly. But I can't imagine. We all know NFL players are alpha males. Like, they're all the alpha male in their groups, right? And quarterbacks are that much bigger of an alpha male. So I can't imagine he let Hurts into his head like that. If he did, then Indy's going to have problems with him, most likely, right? Because if you're weak like that, you're going to be weak on other things. It's not just going to be competition. So I don't think it was that. I think it was, like I said, a lack of talent. But I could be wrong. I mean, he did play horrendous this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely did. Danny?
Yeah, I don't think them drafting Hurts affected it too much. It might have just affected that they would have had an extra piece that they could have had added on the team. But they had so many injuries this year, and then power that up on top of the fact that their offense was plain. Like you could basically feel out what they were going to do because of the wide receiver tree. They only used like 2 things on the tree. Guys couldn't get open. Wentz threw so many. Those 10 interceptions where no one was around him. The defense sucked. Maybe they would have won maybe 1 more game, maybe 2, but I don't think it would have been crazy. I thought they were going to lose no matter what with everything that went around, because I thought it was like a whole like sunken ship with everybody included, like just everybody playing bad. Like your best piece on offense is Miles Sanders, and you don't use him. And I thought that was a big thing. And that's something that they have to think about this year. You got to use him. The guy averaged 6.5 yards a carry, and at most he would average 15 carries a game at most.
It's hard.
Literally none of this happens if not for that draft pick, because the only way that you trade a franchise quarterback, whether he is or not, he's your franchise quarterback, right into his contract extension. You don't do that if there's nobody like over your shoulder saying we have an answer here. They don't trade Carson Wentz unless they know they have whatever they think they have in their back pocket. If they didn't know they had Jalen Hurts, they're not getting rid of Carson Wentz right now. Because even if you think they're going to draft one at 6, you have no idea what's going to be there at 6. So you can't even say that. There would be no plan. There'd be no answer. All of this happens because that pick was made on Jalen Hurts. Go back to the year after they won the Super Bowl. This is Carson's team. This is Carson's team. Yeah, well, no, it's not, because Nick Foles is still there, and there's a statue of him outside of the building. So, like, he literally had, like, no period of time where this was his team with nobody over, that it was just him. And he had to worry about any of the noise. It was just play football. They kept doing that to him. They give him the money. Oh, great. This is finally my team. You're not even a year later. They draft potentially a replacement. And now a year after that, he's out the door. So if Jalen Hurts is not taken at 53, I don't care what they do. But this doesn't happen because he's still there. Hurts gave them an out.
All it did was move it up a year, because if they don't draft Hurts, then Wentz has a terrible year, most likely. Okay. And now you're talking about picking in the top 10. And you're talking about opting out after this season, because they had the opt-out clause after the 21 season, and you're picking 6th. So there you go. That's exactly what would have happened. Guy would have sat for a year, whoever you drafted. All right. The gentleman who made this trade and made the Jalen Hurts pick, Mr. Howie Roseman. Crickets, booze. Who's anybody? Okay.
I don't think
He stinks.
I love
him out of here. How does he survive 4 head coaches? How is he still here? I don't understand.
Good question.
His best year was in the closet. That was his best year.
He absolutely has blackmail on somebody high up in that. There's no chance this guy survived. To me, he's the worst GM in the NFL.
Former Sports Box guest Jack Fritz had this to say on Twitter. Howie Roseman's gotten to hire 4 coaches, has now eaten the highest dead cap money in NFL history, won battles over Andy and Joe Banner, is drafted poorly, has the team now in cap hell, and is somehow safe. Unreal. Mark Farzetta, also from Philly Radio, if you were deliberately trying to ruin the Eagles post the Super Bowl, you would do every single thing that they've done. Pass Metcalf, guarantee Wentz money, pass on Jefferson, draft Hurts, undermine Doug, fire Doug, trade Wentz, take the biggest cap hit ever, and now potentially go after another quarterback. And one of my favorite Twitter follows is myself. And what I had said was I broke this down as to how this trade actually ended up, where you trade, and this is what Wentz cost them: a 2016 1, a 2016 3, a 2016 4, a 2017 1, and 2018 2. All of that for a 2021 3 and maybe a second next year with dead cap. At least the GM got fired. No, apparently not.
Listen, he's lucky they won a Super Bowl. That's all I got to say.
They won a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, if they didn't win, I think he's probably gone the year after they won. I mean, you know, if they hadn't won that year, he's gone. I don't know how he survived to this point.
Think about where all this started. They bring Chip Kelly in. They make Chip Kelly run everything. They say, Howie, you take a back seat. We're going to put you at the end of the hallway for wherever you want. Then they get rid of Chip Kelly and they say, yeah, Howie, come back in. You didn't do such a bad job. Come on back. And look where they're at right now. So maybe he was the problem from the start. Their drafts have been awful.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the problem, though. That was the problem. Chip Kelly, everything that happened since Chip Kelly has been the problem. Chip Kelly, they gave Chip total control, turned into a disaster. And Jeffrey Lurie said that'll never happen again. So guess what? Bring Howie Roseman back. Howie's my guy. We'll make the decisions, big time decisions together. Guess what? And they won a Super Bowl. So now they're justified in their decision. And they think they can keep going with it. And it's just turned into an utter disaster.
Yeah,
So
I mean, imagine the Eagles with DK and Justin Jefferson. You can't tell me you guys aren't winning more games. I mean,
No, we're
sure
going
Wentz was a
to
lot better.
re-sign Deshaun Jackson for another 3 years, and he'll have
Oh, my Lord.
5 games in 3 years.
isn't he like 47 years old?
We
Jesus.
jokingly talk about this all the time. Every single damn person who gets cut by another team, the Eagles are interested in because they consistently cannot draft to fill the spots that they need. So they have to go fill it in free agency. And the ironic thing is, it's not as though they don't know what their deficiencies are. They try to draft them. They just suck at it. They've tried to draft a receiver twice now, hasn't really worked out. They tried to fill the offensive line hole, didn't work out. So it's not as if they don't know what their problems are. They're smart enough to know that.
The thing is like wide receivers hit and miss all the time. I think more now than quarterbacks do, right? But Justin Jefferson was as close to a lock as you could get.
Sure.
He was as close as you could get. And then you go for Rieger, who wasn't even supposedly a first-round draft pick on anybody else's board. Like you could have got him
in the room, Alex. He's trying to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah,
they wanted Hurts. They wanted Hurts because he's a dual threat. He'll play. He'll be a slash. He'll do this. They wanted him. He's a punt returner. They think that they're the smartest people in the room. That's what they try to do. They took a friggin' fireman 10 years ago in the first round.
Well, do you think Jeffrey Lurie's making these picks or Harry Roseman is?
Roseman. I don't think Lurie has any idea.
I think Lurie's got a lot to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
do
it's
too.
both. I think it's both. I think it's
I do
both,
too.
honestly.
Yeah, I think you guys are. I don't think you give him enough credit, or for that matter, lack of credit
Blame.
to blame to Jeffrey Lurie having his hand in these draft picks, especially. I'm not saying necessarily free agency, but I think the drafting, it's. I mean, the scouts. So you said, Alex was mentioning that Justin Jefferson was ranked across the board on every scout's board ahead of Rieger, and then all of a sudden pulls him out of your left field. And where's that come from? I mean, Harry Roseman, listen, he's a player personnel guy. Jeffrey Lurie owns a team, and where's that coming from? I mean, I don't know.
Well, how about the video? We saw the Vikings pretty much, go 6 to midnight when the Eagles didn't take Justin Jefferson.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen,
Can we pull a video of our draft show where I went absolutely ape shit when they took Jefferson?
I'm sorry, I was not.
Where they took Rieger instead of Jefferson. I mean,
oh, listen, we were crushing Andrew's brother, Austin. I mean, because he's a diehard Eagles fan. We crushed him about Rieger, and he's like, "Oh, he's a typical Eagles fan." Unfortunately, I hate to beat on you guys, but he's gonna be great. He's gonna be a sleeper. Howie knows what he's doing. Okay, and you see what happened. I mean, now if Wentz has more time to throw the ball, maybe Rieger turns into, I don't know, sufficient receiver. He's not a true number one though, but maybe he can be something. I mean, I don't know, man. It just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. Like
it's almost like the Eagles looked at Kansas City's roster and said, "Let's do what Andy Reid's doing." That's what I feel. They felt like they wanted that's their Tyreek Hill. They have Goddard. It was almost like they're trying to assemble this like offense where they think that, like I said, smartest guys in the room. Let's try and draft this guy, pull him out of nowhere, and see what we could do. But obviously, it didn't work.
I think that's exactly what they tried to do because Doug Peterson was an Andy Reid guy, and yeah.
Dave, did you catch that, or did you miss it?
I'm not fucking.
Yeah, it's all right.
We have fun.
Oh,
Danny.
Good. Yeah.
What were you saying there, Dan?
No, I said one of the things that I was just thinking about is I think they've really missed Joe Douglas doing the draft. I think a couple of years that they did really good in the draft was when he was the one running the draft and not Howie Roseman or Jeffrey Lurie. We brought guys in right before the Super Bowl year, and they fit, they worked, and they played well. And then we just started reaching for guys like Rieger, like Andre Dillard, and you see the product on the field now. Now the funny thing is they can bring in undrafted free agents and they do well, but they can't draft early on, which is complete opposite of what it should be. You should hit on your early picks because that's where the talent is, and we can't do that right now.
Yeah, I mean now you're entrusting this Howie Roseman to make these picks, this 6th overall pick, these picks that you get back in the Wentz deal. If you're looking to rebuild the roster and trade away some guys, you're picking the picks along the way in the draft. And now Howie Roseman's still here as the general manager, and him and Jeffrey Lurie are going to be making these picks. I can't imagine. We're putting this question up. I can't imagine any Eagles fan being comfortable with Howie with picks. I mean, I understand you get the higher the pick goes, the less chance you have to screw it up. Well, it's Howie. I wouldn't go that far. He will screw it up. Watch them. You want to
hear some real scary?
Here at 6. Watch.
You want to hear some real scary stuff too? Is with all this cap room coming in next year, they're not going to want to have a rookie GM making these free agent signing. You're stuck with Howie for 2 years. I hate to break it to you. The fact that he survived the Doug Peterson fire means you got him for 2 years. Lurie's gonna want him for all these free agent signings because you're gonna have more cap space than any team in the NFL the year next year. You're stuck with Howie for another year, and I feel for you as a Browns fan watching until we had Dorsey, right? So that's the biggest difference with the Browns now. People don't realize that. But people don't realize that when we brought in Dorsey took all the control away from the owner. The owner no longer had any input on the picks. It was strictly Dorsey. And now you see where we are 3 years later.
Well, the Eagles had Dorsey and they just let him go.
But here's the thing, and I'll pose it to the three of the panel. Other than push debt into future years, right? What exactly has he done as a general manager? Like, all I hear is, how he's a cap genius. No, you're not. You're just putting debt into future years. That's why you're like $80 million over the cap right now. That's how that happens. Okay. Like, again, you're just throwing debt into future years because if you don't win now, unless you're Howie Roseman, you'll get fired later. So nobody gives a shit. But that's all the guy's ever done is, look, our cap's so great. Yeah. Because you just pick money up and drop it somewhere else is somebody else's problem or some other team's problem. So like, where does this come from that like, Howie Roseman is some phenomenal general manager? And I live here with you guys. I know that he's not, but there's this like national idea that like he's a cap guru. Dude's got a spreadsheet that hits the plus sign, puts it somewhere else. That's all it is. I
mean, he won a Super Bowl. I mean, that's accredited.
That's the strangest part of the entire story, actually.
But that's credited.
I don't know how that happened.
Right? It's credited to him because of that, right? Like because they got rid of Chip Kelly. And then they made that miraculous turnaround, and within 2 years, they won a Super Bowl, right? Like, that's why he has any kind of credibility as a GM to begin with. I just don't think that, I think we all agree.
Because
Howie is the problem.
What I want. That's why. Right. Next question.
He's a Rangers fan.
Fucking A, dude.
Okay,
Fucking A.
Listen, the Rangers are winning 2-1, and I'm like,
I don't even care. I watch them. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, this Rangers fan, even though he's also a Cowboys fan, loves Carson Wentz, and
I think
thinks he's better than Dak Prescott. So of course,
I'm buying the shirt as soon as it's released.
Wait, you think Dak's better?
No, he thinks Wentz is better than Dak.
Oh, I'm saying you think Dak is better. Hess, you think Dak is better than Wentz?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't see it. I never have.
By what measurable? You don't think if Wentz had the Cowboys team that they would have not at least been in the NFC Championship by now?
It's music to my ears.
Yeah, I mean, come on. The reason he got hurt was because offensive line issues, the injuries that we discussed, right? You never have all your guys together at the same time. So that's how he got hurt. If he has that offensive line in Dallas, he's sitting there for 5 seconds just throwing like a statue, right? You don't think that they're in the NFC Championship? I just don't understand that.
I mean, listen, you're talking about besides this past year, Wentz has had a damn good offensive line in front of him and fairly okay weapons. I mean, he had one of the best tight ends in the game for his entire career. All right, I know you want to talk about like a number one wide receiver. Yeah, he's lacked that. But it ain't like it's absolute. Outside of the back half of 2019, when he had absolute slop to throw to, He's had decent receivers in Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith. Okay?
But he
Let's
looked
not
like
act
an
he's
MVP
throwing
candidate with YMCA wide receivers. So how can you think that guy's the problem? He led you to the playoffs. It was like LeBron dragging the Cavs to the finals when he played against the Spurs and got swept, and people kill him for it. He had a dude named Boobie Gibson playing with him that should have never been in the NBA. Like, you guys had guys that would not make any other roster except for the Eagles, because Howie's a genius, by the way, and he won with them. He took you to the playoffs.
They backed themselves into the playoffs those 2 years. 9 and 7. They needed help to get in both years. And listen, it ain't like Wentz absolutely lit it up those games either. They played absolute slop the last 4 games of 2019, and he played like absolute shit this past year. I was on the Wentz wagon, man. And listen, after the first few games this year and how bad he was, and listen, first 4 years of his career, what was the one thing he didn't do? Throw interceptions. And I was fine with that. Maybe he held on to the ball a little long, but he made better decisions. This year, he's throwing the ball all over the place, turning the ball over like crazy. He led the league in interceptions. He only played 12 games. I'm out. The regression just took a sharp decline. I said before the season it was a make or break year for him, and he absolutely got broken.
Shit.
Gone. See ya. Goodbye. I'm sure he'll do well in Indy, but I didn't want him on my team no more. Period. End of story.
I agree.
So in 19, you're saying he didn't light it up, 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns. That's not lighting it up?
Not in my opinion. When is 27 touchdowns like?
That's like a top 7 quarterback.
27 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. That's an average year for a quarterback anymore. We're talking about this era in passing.
And
in this era, in this league, 4,000 yards and 27 touchdowns is not anything special.
I will say this, though. If you looked at his wide receivers, he didn't have a wide receiver over 500 yards last year. They all had under, and his best receiver was Ertz, and Ertz missed the last couple games of that season, which they had the 4-game win streak to get into the playoffs. So he did a lot with less because all the wide receivers weren't there. He had the top 4 receivers who were hurt. His number 1 guy was Greg Ward, and his number 2 and 3 guy, I can't even think of their name because they're not even in the league anymore.
I understand what you're saying, but like these guys, I mean, if you want to call them NFL players, they're still in an NFL roster. They're still NFL players. They still got to do what they got to do. I do agree with Bryant with Hess, but I just the regression that was showed this year, and I don't really think that
alarming.
The receivers didn't know what routes they were running. Come on, these are professional receivers. Okay, they might not have the big names that everybody else has, but other teams have that as well. I don't know. He looked. If you're an Eagles fan and you watched every game, he looked so bad. He looked like he shouldn't have even been on the field. I'm surprised he lasted until the end of this season, and in the last 4 games he took him out. He should have been out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we watched the games, and like the stats were misleading. Like, they should have been worse. I mean, you could make the argument he was one of the 2-3 worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL this past season. Like that, for me, if you're going to be a franchise type quarterback that should be in the league for 10, 15 years, you can't have years like this. You can't. That's inexcusable. I don't care who you're throwing to, who your coaches are, what kind of offense you're running. That's inexcusable.
I got a question for you guys. I'm a little off topic. Does Sirianni coming in as the new coach? Obviously, they told him, "Hey, listen, you're not going to have Wentz. It's going to be Hurts." I mean, I'm sure they told him that when they hired him, because nobody would probably in their right mind take the job if they knew that was going to be the problem. But I know Atard probably feels this way. Is Sirianni the Pete Mackanin or the Dave Haxtell going into this, where he's the bridge guy for the bad years?
Unfortunately for him, yes, because I think he's a good young coach, and I think he's gonna get them on the right track. It's just he's not gonna survive the bad year this year and probably next year before they really make a turnaround, because you're going to have all this cap space. But once again, it's going to probably be Howie picking the free agents that you bring in. And as a high-profile free agent, are you going to want to go to Philly knowing the issues that they've had and you're going to have to work with Howie most likely? No. So they're going to get second or third tier free agents that you're going to overpay probably. And so you're going to be another year. I think you guys are 3 years away from scratching the playoffs at the earliest, right? 5 years is probably more realistic. But I think if everything falls correctly, you could be back maybe competing for a playoff spot because you're in the NFC least. You can probably compete.
I think Sirianni knew that they weren't going to have Wentz. I think he knew just by looking at the coaching staff that he brought in. He brought in the offensive coordinator who worked with Herbert last year in San Diego. He did a great job developing him. The quarterbacks coach was Brian Johnson in Florida. He worked with Dak Prescott in Mississippi State. And then in high school, he worked with Jalen Hurts.
He's known Jalen Hurts since he was 4 years old.
Yeah, he has a past with him. So I think that they set it up for Hurts. Like you could have said that if they kept Wentz, it would have been for Wentz. But I think the writing on the wall was they brought these guys in to work with Jalen Hurts. And that's what he's going to do this year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and we're looking at what, the argument about what Wentz is, what's he going to do in Indy. What do you guys think as far as what Carson Wentz will do in Indy? And Joe D'Angelo says he might just need to be a game manager in Indy. I think that with the roster around him and the scheme that Frank Reich runs, how they like to run the ball, play defense, a much more balanced offense than what Doug ran here in Philly, with a solid offensive line in front of him and some good young weapons, Michael Pittman and Zach Pascal. Paris Campbell will be back healthy next year. I think he's going to be successful. I won't say he's going to light it up, but I think 25 touchdowns, 10 picks. He'll cut down on the mistakes. Just because I think mentally, knowing he's got a better offensive line in front of him, all right. I think they'll win. They'll win 10 games. But what's your guys' opinion?
I think they win the division. I think they play the Browns in the AFC Championship. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you right now, Kansas City does not make it back to the Super Bowl.
Well, I think with Phillip Rivers as our quarterback, they win 11 games, right? So with that squad, that personnel, Carson Wentz wins at least 11 games. I mean, at least, as you said, wins the division. I think 12 games. That squad's just too good for him not to win 12 games. Like you said, he's, will he be a top 10 quarterback numbers wise? I don't know. Will he be a top 15? Most likely, just because of the roster he has and the weapons he has. So, and the team around him. Like I said, top 5 defense, top 5 offensive line. You got Jonathan Taylor, and the list goes on. So,
yeah, I mean, T.Y. Hilton had a down year till like week 10. He was terrible till week 10.
Terrible.
So
for fantasy, you stunk.
Right, same thing.
Yeah.
So if you can get him involved early on, their offense is that much more potent.
I think right now they're the third. I think right now you can make the case they're the third best team in the AFC behind Kansas City and Buffalo, and I think that they're in that. I think they win their division. I agree. I think the Browns are right there. I think they're the top 4 across the board. Those are division winners. And I again, it's the way that they're built. They should have beat the Bills last year with Phillip Rivers, and they didn't. They could have. They should have. So, is he an elite quarterback? No, I'm not going to make the case that he is, but I'm going to tell you that he's an upgrade over Phillip Rivers. And if that offensive line can keep Phillip Rivers upright, it can keep Wentz upright. So he's got all of the advantages there that he didn't have in Philadelphia. I think look, they won 11 games this year. Probably should have been 12 because they lost to Jacksonville to start the year. But are they going to win more games than that? I mean, it's hard to win 13, 14 games in the NFL, but I think they win their division. And I think that they're going to get a home playoff game, and then we'll see where the chips fall. But they haven't had a quarterback since Locke, realistically, and they've been a good team since. I've loved everything Chris Ballard has done there. Totally underrated GM. They got a lot of cap space, which is why this deal made sense for them, because they don't really they still have $30 million to go spend. So it's not as if that they needed it.
And if he restructures, good Lord.
Sure. Why wouldn't he at this point? He got what he wanted.
He ain't restructuring.
He might restructure. He might restructure later because they're not in any situation where they need cap space. I mean, the Colts have even with taking Wentz's contract on, they still have $30-some million in cap space. I mean, that's insane. So they're set up to make it to really, make a run if Wentz can get anywhere
What I'll
near
ask
the
you
form
that.
he used to
Tess,
be in.
you know both teams very well. What advantage do the Eagles have over the Colts?
What advantage do the
Any?
Eagles
Roster-wise?
have over this?
Yeah.
None.
Okay.
I think John Suggs made a good point in his comment with the Colts looking like the 2017 Eagles. When you look at it, they got 3 running backs like we did that year. They got Pittman, who kind of reminds me of Jeffries with how tall he is. Then you got I kind of compare Hilton to Torrey Smith. Then they have 3 tight ends. What did we have in 2017? We had 3 tight ends and then a good offensive line. Our offensive line was healthy that year. And then a good defense. Our defense was really good at home. So he has some of the similar things that he had there, and that would kind of hide some of his deficiencies because I think he's going to be hand the ball off a lot like they did in 2017 when they had Blunt, they had what's his name from Miami? Ajayi, and then they had Clement. And then their tight ends can block. I don't think all tight ends were really blocked good this year, but their tight ends between Doyle, Mo Cox, and then if they bring somebody in because they had Trey Burton last year and he did very good with blocking. I think that's going to help Wentz this upcoming year. Is he's not going to have to worry about all the pressure because he's going to have a lot more time to throw, and he's going to actually have running backs that he's going to hand the ball off to because his coach is going to want to run the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. So touching back on a topic we kind of covered a little bit earlier. Pressure now on Jalen Hurts. What kind of pressure do you think he has? Especially if he's the only quarterback on the roster, if he's not the only quarterback on the roster, because I'm going to kind of, since we're kind of running over on time a little bit. I'm gonna kind of combine it with this question here. Pressure on Jalen Hurts, and if the Eagles draft a quarterback at the 6th pick, should they draft a quarterback with the 6th pick? Should they not? Do they wait till next year? Do they give Jalen Hurts a year as the only guy on the roster? What do you guys think?
I mean, I think the city will blow up if they draft a quarterback. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know why you would do that. I mean, everybody's saying take the kid from Alabama, the wide receiver, or the kid from LSU, Jamar Chase. I mean, there's a ton of needs that they need. They don't need a quarterback right now. At least I don't think so. I think there's more needs that you need. And even Surtain, they can take Surtain. They can take a bunch of people in that spot.
Right.
Well, I think I can tell you right now with the 6 picks, I think they're going to do their due diligence on quarterbacks. Now, are they going to select one? I don't know, but I think that they will definitely take a look at quarterbacks, especially Zach Wilson. What's he? I mean, he's a second rank. He may not make it to number 6, but if he's there,
now look, if it's Trevor Lawrence at number 1, then you take him probably.
Well, of course, but yeah, I think
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
I think if Zach Wilson's there at number 6, I think you take him. I think you take him if I'm the Eagles.
He doesn't do it for me.
I mean, he's definitely not the second best quarterback in the draft. But
the rank. Yeah, I know what he's saying, but I don't think you think Fields is going to be there at 6.
No, if he is, I'll be absolutely amazed. But from everything I'm hearing, Saleh is sticking with Darnold. He's not drafting a quarterback, which I think for him is a smart move because
they should trade out
the Jets are going to be in the basement again next year. So, I mean, this is not a quick turnaround for the Jets. Same thing with the Eagles, right? So my thing is, if you're not ready to win right now, why draft a franchise quarterback, especially if your offensive line play is bad, to ruin his career? You're wasting a crucial, coveted pick to draft a guy that you're going to ruin his career anyways with concussions and injuries and confidence. You might as well draft interior offensive line, defensive line, because that's where it's really won is in the trenches anyways. I know wide receivers and quarterbacks are Gucci picks and everybody likes them, but look at the good teams in the NFL. You saw what happened to Kansas City. I told everybody they were going to be exposed. They had 3 offensive linemen out, and you saw how bad they looked, and they had not looked that bad all year, right? What was the difference? They had 3 crucial offensive linemen out. So until you fix your lines, it doesn't matter if you got Patrick Mahomes behind there. You're not going to win. You saw it. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? So I think you guys got to go offensive line or trade back, get multiple picks, pick up somebody later. I just don't. If you take a quarterback, yeah, I agree. I think the city is going to riot and, shit's going to get burnt down to the ground.
Yep. Brian?
I think the pick is Penei Sewell or a quarterback, because I don't know I don't know what the quarterback looks like next year. And this is a quarterback heavy draft. And I'm not going to sit here and be convinced that Jalen Hurts is the long-term answer. I agree with Brian Gazzara entirely. That is not the mold of a quarterback I think can be a number one. I mean, again, I think he's a gimmick player. I don't think that, the run is going to be, what to me, my honest opinion, and I'm wrong all the time and I couldn't care less, but to me, my honest opinion is that the running quarterback, the primary running quarterback, is going to go by the way of the Wildcat. Like, it's like what's in vogue right now. Like, teams are going to start to defend against it, and it's not going to work anymore. You need to be able to throw the ball to make the. I'm not a Hurts guy. Just never was a Hurts guy. It is what it is. Hey, Rangers won in a shootout.
Thanks.
What did he do?
Well,
Condrada said Kako sucks, so he put one past Hart. It was nice. Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that's what they should be doing. And honestly, I wouldn't hate them trading up. I think to me, them taking a receiver is asinine. Like, you cannot keep doing this. A second rounder 2 years ago, a first rounder last year. Like, you just can't you can't draft them. So don't try. Like, you suck at it. There's a very, very deep receiver class in free agency. If you're going to find a way to make some money, bargain basement, figure it out next year. It doesn't matter. See what you got in Jalen Reagor before you start continually drafting guys. Honestly, next year, maybe Arcega-Whiteside turns into something. I don't know. And there's a good win. They drafted him high. I'm just saying, like, being that next year is such a throwaway year. Hold on a second. But next year is a throwaway year, right? Nobody cares what happens. Toss shit against the wall and see what you got.
I don't disagree with you. I'm reading Brian's last comment. What did Hurts do in the 4 or 5 games he played that makes him not think that he's any good, though? I just want to know.
I don't think he can really. I mean, what, dude? A running quarterback will make your offense.
But he doesn't run. He doesn't just run.
He had 72 yards in 3 quarters against Washington. Like, oh my God, they're putting Jalen Hurts. Oh, okay, cool. He's averaging 25 yards a quarter. What the hell? Who cares? Like, everybody makes it. I don't see him as a starting quarterback. I think that the comparisons to Russell Wilson are an insult to Russell Wilson. I don't see it.
Well, Russell Wilson was out of Seattle too. So
listen, the Eagles are not going to be a good team this coming year anyway.
Right.
You're giving Jalen Hurts the reins this year. You don't need to draft a quarterback, especially at a position when you're at the 6th pick. When you can get a Sewell, you can get a Micah Parsons to be the center of your defense for the next 10 years. Okay, so you get linebackers. I know. I can hope, please. All right. Hope is not a strategy. I know. But I think you give him the reins this year, and then if he's terrible, then you're picking high again next year.
Right.
All right.
It's a win-win.
And you can take a quarterback then.
But
it makes no sense to do it right now.
This is a quarterback heavy draft. I mean,
I don't watch
after Trevor Lawrence. Are we guaranteed? Is there any guaranteed studs out there after Lawrence? I don't think so.
The Eagles have a quarterback factory.
Quarterback factory,
man. Come on,
dude. Like Zach Wilson, he could turn into a stud, but he's a raw quarterback. He's really got to work on his accuracy. Same with Justin Fields with his arm strength. I mean, you're after Lawrence. I'm not taking a shot on these guys.
I agree with that.
I'm not taking a shot on them. I can get a stud at another position, especially at a great position. You have Penei Sewell and Jordan Mailata as my bookend tackles for the next 10 years. Sign me up.
A lot of mock drafts I'm seeing you guys taking Caleb Farley.
Listen,
I think
maybe a corner, but not that high. If they're going to trade back and pick up other picks, okay.
Chris Farley's back.
They're saying Sewell goes to 3 to the Dolphins is what a lot of people
probably. But they should probably take a wide receiver.
They're not taking Trey Lance. They're going to take another 2 quarterbacks from North Dakota State. Come on, give me that.
Listen,
no.
If How important in whatever the Eagles have done since he was drafted, Lane Johnson's been a very, very crucial part of this team. You have a chance to get an offensive lineman like that, a cornerstone player, you do it. And I wouldn't be against them trading up to do it. Like, that's the kind of player I think he is. And if you go back to the Quentin Nelson draft, if Quentin Nelson should have gone much higher than he did. But because he was a guard, he fell. And it's like, he is a huge part of what Indy's doing. Nobody got a better pick out of the top five than Indy did.
Yeah, where was he? Where did he go to college at? Quentin Nelson?
Yeah, Notre fucking thing.
Oh, all right.
Jeremy tends to disagree.
Overrated Notre Dame.
Just so you know.
He's a gimmick player. Cool. That's absolutely what I want to have a starting quarterback, is a gimmick player. That's fantastic.
I want Penny Sewell, but the likelihood that he's going to be there is not high. I think he's going to get taken in the top 3, 4. If he's there, I take him. If he's not, I either think about taking Smith, because I think there's a lot of questions with Chase just because he didn't play the whole year. I don't like it when a guy sits all year and then he comes back, because you don't know what shape he's in. You don't know how he's going to be.
Listen,
if he would have played, I would have won.
The way that the Eagles have operated, and you guys know this, they like skilled position players. Okay, they're going to draft them very well. They have a chance to trade back to 9, 10, 11, and if Kyle Pitts is still going to be there, if they have him on their radar, they're going to take him. I'm telling you, they're going to take him.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I don't want any parts of Devontae Smith, because I think the guy's too fragile to really last. I don't think he's worth that. I know the guy has blazing speed and great hands, whatever. I would prefer Jamar. If they're going to take a receiver that high, I would prefer Jamar Chase. Listen, you already passed on one LSU kid last year, and he proved everybody wrong. PTSD. And this guy's better, much better than Justin Jefferson, to the point where that national championship season, they moved Justin Jefferson into the slot because Jamar Chase is better and played the outside, okay? And they pushed Justin Jefferson into the slot, and then, he's just a slot receiver, blah, 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 blah. And then he falls past the Eagles because he's just a slot receiver. And then he has a great rookie year. So for me, if they're going to take a receiver that high, like I wouldn't be upset if it was Jamar Chase. I do not want any parts of DeVonta Smith. I think he's too fragile.
Yeah, but I think Brian,
so fragile though.
I'm talking to Gazara right here.
6'1", 175. I watched him like so many times, like get hit and then be down for a while and have to miss like a couple series. Like even in the national championship game, he falls on his ass and he's got no fat there to cushion it, and he's out of the game for a while. Like I don't.
But then he have
Kyle Pitts is a number 1 receiver. I'm telling you, they could see him as a tight end, a hybrid.
Kyle Pitts doesn't make it past Cincinnati. I'm telling you right now.
Well, you might be right.
No,
what I'm saying, I'm answering Brian's question. He said, God, they're not going to trade Goddard. They want Goddard to be just like that. They like hybrid stand-up tight ends who are going to be big. And
why do you want to trade Goddard anyways? He's good. Like, I think he's probably maybe one of your top 3 best players on your roster still. Why would you want to get rid of him?
I don't want to get rid of him.
And they're two different type of tight ends too, because Kyle Pitts can block. You can put him on the outside. He's really underrated in the red zone. He does a lot there. He can use his weight, get to the outside, or go on the inside. And then he doesn't drop the ball.
He's a little undersized at me at 240, though. I mean, as far as blocking in the NFL, he's a little undersized. He's going to have to put on some weight. Same thing with the kid out of Alabama, right? I agree with you, but I think before the end of next year, you'll see it's Smith, right? Isn't that the kid's name from Alabama? He'll be 190, 185, somewhere in that range. He'll put on 10 to 15 pounds, hopefully muscle to get him in early and have him working out. You know what I mean? But I don't know I don't see how you pass on that kid if you're going to take a wide receiver. He's probably the best wide receiver prospect we've seen in 5 years. I mean, he's that good, man. I didn't believe that hype until I watched
for Alabama, who just runs up the score on people and throws the ball all over the place. So I'm not saying he's not good.
But they produce wide receivers that are good in the league.
Game. Yeah. Julio,
Calvin Ridley. There's a lot of.
But all those wide receivers aren't that size. He's small.
Oh,
He's a
I
small
agree with
wide
you. He's
receiver.
undersized for what I want my number one to be.
You got Jerry Jeudy, you got him, you got a bunch of kids that went there that are not. They weren't that small, but I listen. I think he's a good wide receiver. I think I'm following what Hess says. I don't really think they should take him at that spot. They have other needs.
If he was
Well,
3
yeah, I
inches
mean-
taller and 25 pounds heavier, sign me up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I like the Farley pick if that would hold true, and you guys to have two lockdown corners. That's going to help you in the end, right? Because you didn't have a lot of pass rush this year, right? So if you have better corners, you're going to get more opportunity for your pass rush to get there. So
Listen,
I mean, that could help you.
To make a long story short, they're drafting over the last, I'll give them 7-8 years, has been absolutely horrific. They try to put Band-Aids on it by signing big free agents,
Right.
and it's bad. They can't do it, and that's the problem they've been in. If they could have a solid draft, I think the stat was, I think Reuben Frank said, out of the last 4 drafts, I think 2 of them are only guaranteed to be starters this year, and that's Miles Sanders and I guess Goddard, really.
Right.
But it's an absolute disgrace. They don't even have guys on the roster from last year that they drafted. When do you see that?
But you're at a point now where you guys got to hit all 5 rounds. They all have to play on. Like, you've gotten to a point now where, most teams hope for 3 to 4 of their guys, to make the roster, be on the team, right? For a good draft. You guys need 5 rounds this year.
So they brought back 3 years ago, they bring back Deshaun Jackson to do what? To be the number 1 receiver at age 33? Come on, man. Like that, and they gave him a decent amount of money too. Like, come on, what are they doing? Like, you just look back at some of the picks that they made and some of the free agents that they've signed. Malik Jackson didn't do shit while he was here. They have a bunch of guys who they're overpaying to bring them in here. Oh, looks like a great pick. He's going to help the interior defense. These are great pass rush. Come on. I mean, they brought Vinny Curry back that one time. They're band-aiding bad situations. They need the draft. They need to hit every single pick in this draft coming up.
Start with one of them.
Yeah.
Maybe
Just
start
hit
with
your,
one.
just hit your first round draft pick.
Please.
They can't hit with
That's
anything.
all.
That guy. Just hit that
That's
guy.
it. All
Some of
right.
them
So
are bad too.
getting past the draft, I mean, and their cap situation for this year. Should the Eagles just blow this thing up? I mean, they're going to be about $30 million over the cap going into this coming year. Okay. Now, obviously, with the trading of Wentz, which is why I said that this was a good time to trade him. You needed to trade him this offseason because if you kept him, you don't get draft pick compensation, and then you're opting out after next offseason. All right. And then you're on the hook for his cap hits after that. Even though they're diminished, they opt out, but they still have minor cap hits. Now you get him off the books after next season. So, yes, your cap situation is pretty much screwed this offseason for this season coming up, which is fine because they're going to stink anyway. But now you've opened up so much cap space after 2021. So 2022 and moving forward. So what should they do with this season here? Should they be trying to move veterans away for whatever they can get?
Assets.
Or just gather as much assets as humanly possible, or removing a Fletcher Cox, a Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey might retire. I mean, guys that, were the best players on your team last year win on the field. I mean, but you start moving them away, and I mean, it's going to get ugly here. And you got a young quarterback here that you might have a future with, and you're going to put nothing around them. So which way should they go here?
I don't think you blow it up completely, right? But guys like Ertz, older guys, Kelsey's going to retire, right? If you can get something for him, get him out of there, right? Like, you can't lose guys for nothing. You know what I mean? Now, Lane, you could probably extend his career if you move him to the interior offensive line, right? I don't think he's done by any shakes. I don't. Offensive linemen are too hard to find great ones to get rid of them, right? At the end of the day, unless they're like a Kelsey situation where he's most likely retiring in a year or two, and you're not going to get anything for him. But Lane, I think you probably get 3 to 4 more years out of him. So I would keep him around. right? I'm going to keep my offensive line guys no matter what, as long as they have some tread left on the tire. But other than that, besides, Goddard, everybody else would probably be on the market that I could get something for. Because what are you playing for this year? You should be playing for the number one pick. I just don't see you guys winning more than 3 to 4 games. And so if that's your ceiling, what does it matter if you only win 2?
What are you blowing up? What the hell's even there?
They're already blown up anyway.
What the hell's even there?
Their whole coaching staff.
Well, I think how many years, and Brian we both put 5 fingers up. Is this, I think this isn't a 2-year plan. This is a 5-year plan. They're going to be bad for the next probably 4 to 5 years, and that's you're absolutely right. The cap situation is much better after this year. So you look 3 or 4 years down the road, you say, well, this is the NFL drafting, you could probably get better in 2 or 3 years, but I just don't see, you need a quarterback. There's so many positions to fill. I don't see them winning in the next 4 or 5 years.
But the teams that get better draft.
Correct.
That's how they get better. Like
sure.
This guy who they have in charge for reasons I can't understand has shown no propensity to be any good at that. So this is just a cycle. Like you can, I went 5 like this. I've been known to say 10 because I have no faith at all that Captain Spreadsheet's going to figure out how to start drafting people. He hasn't figured it out by now. He's going to learn. He's going to read a book. What's he going to do? It's like, where's it going to come from? And the owner and him have a very strange relationship apparently. So he's not going anywhere. The fact to me that we're discussing Howie Roseman right now, the day that Carson Wentz is sent away with a $34 million dead cap hit after all of the stuff they've sunk into him. Guys do not survive that. There is no logical explanation why Howie Roseman is still employed. None of us, if we were this bad at our job, would have kept it anywhere near as long as Howie Roseman. God. Nowhere close. So you can say, yeah, they're going to tank out, sell off, get draft picks. Listen, you see my sweatshirt and my hat. I'm a very big believer in you're not going to win, lose, and build towards your future. The problem is when you have the wrong people making those decisions, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and this is going to be a straight Howie draft too, because they're not going to trust your rookie head coach. He whatever say Peterson had, this guy's going to have none. It's going to be all Howie, and that's it. So
Lurie.
Laurie, yeah. Howie and Laurie.
Say it's a Laurie draft.
A joint disposal of talent is what it's going to be, because I think your guys are going to. I want you guys to take a corner or offensive lineman, but you probably take a quarterback, and you probably stretch and reach. You probably take the kid out of Alabama.
I honestly don't think that they will. That's how I feel. Situation then that you were with Wentz. Then you're going to draft a quarterback that Hurts is going to have to look over his shoulder now. I don't think they want to put themselves in that situation.
Who is Jalen Hurts?
Keep doing that.
But who is Jalen Hurts? The second overall pick in the draft, that's different. You're making a commitment there.
I understand that, but I still don't think they're going to do that. They have other needs.
I hope not, but I wouldn't put it past. Would you be surprised if they?
I would not be surprised.
Nope.
Okay.
I think if they drafted a kicker, I wouldn't be surprised.
We're all going to be.
That's what I'm getting at. Is that you don't know with this brain trust.
Roberto Aguayo. Second round.
Where's Scaletta?
You don't know what this brain trust, right? If we want to call it that, right? It's like the patients running the asylum is how I feel. It's just like these guys, they don't have a football bone in their body, I feel like, and now you're going to have another draft where they're going to probably make terrible mistakes, unfortunately, and we're going to be having this conversation at the end of next year all over again, right?
The only hope is that they're so bad this year that Jeff Lurie has to reevaluate the front office. Is he going to fire Howie? Probably not. They could go 0-16 and the guy would probably still have a job. But maybe it causes him to bring in a football type of guy. Not a finance guy like Howie is, but a football-minded guy like
But
a
didn't
Joe
you already
Douglas
have that?
was.
Didn't you already have Dorsey in there? I mean, like you
So-
But they
already
couldn't
had.
keep him. Dorsey took a promotion to go somewhere else.
Right, but that's my point. Is you had a football guy in the building, and you wouldn't.
Not enough say.
You wouldn't make him happy. You wouldn't make him happy when he's the guy that should be making. I mean, look what he did with the Browns. Look what he did with Kansas City. Is that not a big enough resume for you to understand this guy should be in charge of our draft and our personnel? And in 5 years or 3 years, like I predicted, we'll be relevant again. But it's like they're going to keep burying their heads in the sand, I feel like, and keep making terrible picks and just.
Well, I think
Go ahead,
I'm harped on this point, but I think that tells me that Jeffrey Lurie's making a lot of the play personnel calls. I think that's what
Well,
that tells
Terry
me.
Jones Jr.
Yep.
then.
For
Yep.
all the years I've been a Cowboys fan living in South Jersey, I've heard about how Jerry Jones is terrible, Jerry Jones is this, Jerry Jones is that. Well, that's exactly who Jeffrey Lurie is turning into very, very quickly.
I think so.
That's all I've ever heard is, and again, I when I heard that there was Ebola in Texas a few years ago, I was hoping it was Jerry Jones. Clearly it was not. But like, this is where you are, and you can't fire the owner.
But I mean, can't he take a page out of Jerry Jones's book? Jerry Jones stepped away, and look at how improved their draft picks have been for the last 5 years. I can't remember a guy they've missed on
Well, CD
in the
Lamb
last
calling it
5
wrong.
years, besides guys getting hurt,
Taco
right?
Charlton.
Which you can't predict. Yeah, I mean, Taco was a bad pick.
Dumb
But other
fucking
than
name
that,
for it.
they've pretty much hit home runs,
I
right?
think Taco Paul would have been better.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Is it just again? It just feels like like maybe, just maybe, Howie has a job because he's not really the one doing anything.
Correct.
That he's
I
just
agree.
the front for Jeffrey
I agree.
Lurie playing
He's
fantasy
the puppet.
football. Yeah, clearly.
He's the puppet.
So Hess, he said they like to pick skill positions. Yeah, of course, we pick skill positions in fantasy football. We think guys that are going to score points. He's an offensive guy, right? When was the last time the Eagles took a defensive player in the first round? Like Derek Barnett, right?
Derek Barnett. Hey, man, he recovered the fumble in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Can you name another play that he made besides?
Nope.
All I'm saying is,
Nope.
we can sit here and wax poetic about how long this rebuild's going to take, and we can all have different opinions on it. But the two people that are primarily in charge of it, no one here has any faith in. None.
Correct.
Yeah, you're right. I changed my prediction 10 years.
Yeah.
I legit, like thinking about it, I'm thinking in a rejuvenated Browns fan, because finally we're making the proper decisions, right? So I'm thinking in like that aspect of, well, nobody was as bad as we are, right? Well, Philly's worse now, it looks like. I mean, it is worse than we ever were.
And
I don't
here's
care if we had 800 quarterbacks we drafted.
here's the
you guys drafted good.
Yeah, and here's the angle we haven't really discussed tonight: is if you're Carson Wentz, why the hell would you have wanted to come back?
Listen, he's breaking COVID protocols right now. He's got a big ass party on going at his house. I guarantee you. I mean,
he lives
the fact
about
that
a half
they're
hour from here. We could probably go find
the
that.
fact that they're leaking damn FaceTime conversations already, like that dude is throwing a party. I guarantee you, he plays leaps and bounds better next year. Watch him have like 35 touchdowns, 5 picks, and throw for like 4,500 yards. And man, Philly is gonna crucify. But it would have never happened in Philly because he doesn't have that kind of team around him. So
we all know that's not how things are judged.
No. Yeah. We got robbed. Philly got robbed. We should have got 3 first-round picks for him, right? Like that's what's going to happen this time next year if he has a stellar year, you know.
And what if he sucks next year? What if they win 6 games?
Oh, listen, if they suck, you guys dodged the biggest bullet of all time.
He might not recover from it. Nobody's
and then Howie is your GM for the rest of your life. So enjoy sucking because if he does play bad.
But Mike, they've won with Jacoby Brissett.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if this guy is as bad as he was this year, and there's no coming back from it, then they're screwed. It's their problem.
Yeah. What you're saying? What if he's like Tim Couch, right? Who couldn't even make the practice squad for the Packers after the Browns cut him because he had 11 undocumented concussions that they never, we didn't believe in concussion protocol at the time. Yeah, if he's like that, right? If he's a walking, CTE scan, then I mean maybe, you know what I mean? But I don't see it happening. The talent is still there. He just didn't have. Now he made mistakes. Like I said, I told you, I admitted he regressed. I'm a huge Wentz fan But I will admit to you, he regressed this year 100%. It wasn't only Philly, it wasn't only the team. It was also
Eagles fans would cut off an appendage or two to be the Browns right now. What are you kidding me?
exactly.
Are you kidding?
You wouldn't?
Are you talking
have
tax?
our
Are you
team-
Right
talking
now.
tax?
No, right now.
No,
Right,
right,
now, yeah, of course.
Because
Have
the
our
last
team-
20 years, I would not want to be the
No,
Browns.
moving forward, right
Because
now.
we're competing for Super Bowls for the next 5 years. I don't know if you know that or not, but we are.
Well, weren't they talking about trading Odell Beckham and possibly Baker Mayfield possibly? That's what I've heard.
Well, I want them to trade Baker and OBJ for Deshaun Watson because guess who you'll see in the Super Bowl next year if that happens. But if it does happen, guess who you see in the Super Bowl?
I mean,
With all that talent, look what he did with Houston. You talk about what Wentz did with YMCA receivers.
Listen,
Look
they
what
took
he
a
did with
chance.
Houston.
They took a chance with Kareem Hunt, and he got out of trouble and all this stuff. And he looks like he's staying the line. So that was a good choice by them, I guess, to get somebody who beat the shit out of somebody.
and
The
to be
number
fair-
one rated offensive line by every metric in football this year.
But you honestly though, you really think Baker Mayfield can take them to the Super Bowl?
Hell
I think
no.
they can take him to the Super Bowl.
Hell no. I
mean-
think listen, the Ravens won with oh God, I always forget the guy's name. But they won with that. Yeah, they won with that excuse for skin. I won't even call him a quarterback. They drug him to the Super Bowl. You forget, all of our safeties were hurt this year. I had to watch Sendejo make errors every single game. Our lockdown corner was hurt. So we're getting all three of them back this year. Most likely, the rumors we'll see if it happens. J.J. Watt we're number one on his list, right? So he comes there.
He's not an every down player anymore, though.
Agreed, but if you put him on the other side of Myles Garrett, who you have to double team every time, he's going to have more than 5 sacks this year, right? He played all 16 games, so he's going to play, right? We are on the upswing humongously, right? I mean, we don't need OBJ. That's why there's rumors about him, right? The two young receivers we have played much better than he did because Baker played much better without him because he doesn't feel the pressure to force him the ball, right? So,
well, listen, you're also taking control of a division where you have a 41-year-old quarterback in Roethlisberger. Pittsburgh sucks right now. I think they're on the downturn. So, I mean, the Browns are in a good spot, but Mayfield, he doesn't do it for me.
listen, I
think you need somebody else.
I wanted Darnold when we took Mayfield to begin with, right? Honestly, if you watch our broadcast from the draft, I said we needed to draft Josh Allen because that's who I thought was going to be the best quarterback out of that draft. And look at miraculously, he is the best quarterback out of that draft. I'm sorry. Well, listen, let's not, you know what I'm saying? But out of the first rounders taken, he's the best so far, right? I mean, I think it's clear far and above the truth.
Here's what we know, because I know we're wrapping up towards the end of the show here. At the end of the day, it was all Carson Wentz's fault, and now he's gone. So
they could turn the page. They'll be fine.
Tomorrow is a new day.
It's a new day.
2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 we got.
It's a new day. Yes, it is.
But I honestly don't think Peterson was the problem.
No, I don't think.
Do you guys, as Eagles fans, think Peterson was the problem? Honestly, do you really think
he was a problem, not the problem?
Yeah, and I don't think Carson was the problem either.
So if they'd have fired Howie, right, and you'd have got rid of Wentz, but you'd have kept Peterson, would you have been happy as a Philly fan?
Sure. I mean, I don't.
Happier than I am now.
Right, because I have no idea who this guy is that they just brought in. It's not like they brought in
Howie's very hated in these parts. Very hated.
Man, Howie was. If you were to rank those three, I think it was Howie, Wentz, Doug, as far as the problems that happened last year.
I don't think you forget how to be a coach, right? And Doug put you guys in great positions every year, but this year, once again, I think that's a product of you've lost a lot of talent. You don't have consistency on the offensive line, like we talked about injuries, and you have aging players now. So I think it was unfortunately a product of everything coming together. You know what I mean? The terrible draft picks, not having enough talent, injuries and everything, and Carson being furious. How did you draft my supposed replacement when we need weapons? You know that, and you're like, nah, we're good.
It was just a lot of bad last year, and I'm not going to make excuses for these guys. I mean, the Super Bowl winning GM, Super Bowl winning head coach, and a guy that was MVP candidate in that year that you won the Super Bowl. I'm not making excuses for him. I don't care how bad the roster is. I don't care. You're supposed to be that good, and you had the worst years of your careers. See ya. Simple as that.
But would you feel the same way if it was Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not going to be one of the 3 worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL ever.
I mean, did you look at his numbers in the Super Bowl? He was atrocious. That's the type of offensive line Carson Wentz had this year. I mean, you got to look at it like that. I mean, I get it. I understand where you're coming from because Carson Wentz had a bad year. But you can't put all of it on him. If you don't have time to throw the ball, if you take a 3-step drop and you have 2 guys on a bad defense on you, then how is it all your fault as the quarterback?
Make adjustments. Make adjustments as a head coach. Make adjustments as a
head coach, right?
Make adjustments.
But that's what I mean. It's head coach. It's offensive coordinator. It's everybody. It's not just all on Wentz is what I'm getting at. Like, he had a bad year and he took a step back, but I think 90% of it was outside situation, coaching calls, stuff like, why didn't you run the ball 25 times? If I got a guy averaging 6.5 yards a carry, I'm running the ball 50 times a game. He's breaking every record in the history of the NFL for rushing yards, and you probably win the division, and then we're not talking about this anyways. Carson Wentz is still there, right? So I just – that's confusing to me and will always be confusing to me.
Yeah, man, I get it. I get it. You know, listen, the Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson era officially over, and we move forward with Halfrey, as I like to call them.
Can't wait.
Howie Roseman and owner Jeff
Can't wait that they put fans back in the stands.
Yeah, great. Oh, my God. Can you imagine when they let fans back in that stadium? Jeez. They got lucky this year there was no fans in that stadium.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I remember the batteries in the snowball incident. At Santa Claus. I can't wait for what's going to happen.
Snowballs to Santa Claus and batteries to J.D. Drew, baby.
You know how to throw shit. I'll tell you what. I can't wait, man. It's going to be absolutely entertaining.
Let's get them back in the stands, man. Let's get them back in the stands. All right. So that does it for this episode of The Green Room. Thank you, everyone, for joining in with your comments, your questions. Thank you to Alex Krogan from Game Winning Drive, Dan Bakley from Cage My IQ, Dave Cartwright from Teeing Off, Mike Velarde from Unsportsmanlike Conduct, and Mr. Brian Teotard from Highly Opinionated.
You're so much a better host of this show than the other 2 guys that were doing.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I wasn't even going to bring them up, man.
Shots fired.
You know what I mean? I was going to let it go. You
showed up. That you put your name on the paper. I mean, you get points for that, right? So.
Once again, thank you to Evan Michael Brown for the intro music for tonight. I really like it. Hope we can keep that for a while. Otherwise, also our sponsor, Showcase Sports, and as always, CrowdPlay. Rolling out. Hit it.
Way to go. Thank you for watching this episode of The Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at SportsBox Show, Twitter at SportsBox Show, Instagram at The SportsBox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thanks for joining us this evening.